All right, I think we are officially live. Hi, Shannon. How's it going?
Hey, Bryce. It's going all right.
Awesome, awesome.
Not too bad.
So we are here for our we try to do a monthly hangout with our patrons at patreon.com/glassboxpod. And this hangout is kind of a special hangout because Shan, what are we doing?
We're doing book club again. We're gonna talk about a book.
Yes, yes,
And you know
yes.
me, I always love to talk about books. Yeah.
Yeah, I think this is going to be a really fun one. This is one that our patrons voted on. We had four to choose from, and this one definitely won it out. Why don't you, while I send the invite to our patron subscribers so that they can join the book club discussion here, why don't you give us kind of a synopsis, tell us a little bit about the book, and then we will kind of allow that time for people to join up and get in on this discussion.
All right, the book title is Why Women Have Better Sex Under Socialism and Other Arguments for Economic Independence. It's by Kristen Ghodsee. And just for a little bit of background on her, she's an American ethnographer and professor of Russian and East European studies at the University of Pennsylvania. She's primarily known for ethnographic work on post communist Bulgaria, as well as being a contributor to the field of post socialist gender studies. She was critical of the role of Western feminist non governmental organizations doing work among Eastern European women in the 1990s. She's also examined the shifting gender relations of Muslim minorities after communist rule, the intersections of Islamic beliefs and practices with the ideological remains of Marxism and Leninism, communist nostalgia, the legacies of Marxist feminism, and the intellectual history of utopianism. She identifies herself as being of Puerto Rican Persian heritage. Her father was Persian, her mother Puerto Rican. So she grew up in San Diego. While attending university, she met and married a Bulgarian law student. So she's the mother of one child, one daughter. So that's Kristen Ghodsee. And she was actually traveling in Europe in 1989 when the Berlin Wall came down. And so she got to observe what happened in with East and West Germany coming back together. And that might have been the basis of what began this book. I'm not totally sure on that one. So,
Yeah, or at least gave her the idea of what she wanted to write, research, and write about at the time. I mean, because it seems as if all of
exactly.
her publications, all of her books have kind of trended towards studying former Soviet and Soviet countries. And yeah, and it's interesting to read it as someone who's a researcher who didn't live in Eastern Germany or in Eastern Europe, but has studied it from an academic perspective. And then to see the kind of reactions to the book as well. And I think we're going to be discussing kind of all of these things as we talk more about the book and go through the discussion more. But yeah, I have to say the book was an interesting read. I really enjoyed it, and I found it to be extremely accessible
Yes, it is.
at its foundation. I mean, it's a 101 on socialism and comparing it to
Mhm.
capitalistic economic structures. And it's just here's a nutshell. Here's a very basic terminology to get you familiar with the larger concepts, and let's run with this premise. And I thought I enjoyed the book a lot. It was tremendously fun to read.
Right. And pointing out that this is just the basic beginner thing to do. That I think is important, beginner book, because that should lead you to look into things a little more deeply, to find something that does cover it more in depth, looks into it more scientifically, everything else. I mean, it really is just a 101 class on those issues as well as feminism. And that I think is an important thing to look at. So the description of the book that you can find in Wikipedia, I'll actually read that. It says in the book, Ghodsee argues that social safety nets create a fairer and better society for women. She argues that under unregulated free markets, the primary burden of parenting, elder care, and care for the sick falls on women who end up providing the labor for free. She uses case studies drawn from Eastern Europe to illustrate her arguments. She rejects a return to 20th century state socialism. And she does that quite a bit, actually, arguing instead that some of the social safety nets found in Eastern Europe, as well as Scandinavia and Western Europe, would improve the lives of women. In the book, Ghodsee argues that socialist societies are better for women. She presents the reader with a view of motherhood from an economic and political perspective. She is critical of the sexualized images that frequently appear in Western magazines and television, which she described as capitalism commodifying women. She presents a series of case studies from Eastern Europe and claims that, compared to capitalist societies, women are more liberated and have more control of their lives in socialistic societies. She points out how women tend to earn less than men in capitalist societies, thus making women more dependent on men and receiving more pressure to get married. Now, 2 chapters of the book are about sexual economics and are critical of puritanical tendencies in Western societies while praising what she contends is the normalization of sex in socialist societies. The book quotes studies purporting to show greater sexual satisfaction among women in East Germany compared to those in West Germany. And of course, that's pre 1989. Ghodsee advocates for a universal basic income, which she argues would balance inequity resulting from unpaid labor that women undertake. Now, universal basic income would be great just because that would give everybody their basic needs, you know, enough food on your table, a place to live, that kind of thing. And so when a woman has to stop working so that she can bear a child, if that is what she chooses to do, then she still has an income coming in. All those
Uh,
kind of things.
I will say that the book did make the point very early on that this book is not a book about UBI, but basically makes
Right.
a statement and the case that if we had UBI, then people would be able to spend more time on things that they enjoy doing instead of just doing things
Exactly.
that pay the bills and,
Hmm.
fulfill all of the work requirements of paying all of the bills. So I
Exactly.
did appreciate
Bec-
that because, I mean, UBI in and of itself is such a huge topic, and to try and spend more time on advocating for it and defining it and going through the arguments for and against it, I think would have detracted from the main focus of the book.
yes, it would. And that's another thing too. I mean, she touches on this basically, but it's like in so many capitalist societies, and really, I think it also happened in socialism, but women end up having to sell their bodies because it's the only commodity they have to bring in the money. And so that in and of itself changes the way they view sex because then sex is a commodity. It's not something to do just because you enjoy it or because you want to have children. And
Yeah.
so,
Yeah.
that's and that makes sense. That makes absolute sense. Now, this book was recommended to us by our patron friend from Serbia, and she is unable to be on this because of her work schedule and everything. And so I talked to her and I said, do you want to give me something to read from you as your opinion of the book and everything else, what you would say if you were on there? And so she did. She sent it to me. Because of time, she wasn't able to sit down with the book and really go over it as much as she would have liked. She's been pressuring me for 5 years to discuss it on the podcast.
Yeah, well,
And I
and
know it's that long because I looked at when I bought it and I'm like, oh
excellent.
shit, this has been longer than just 3 years. I was thinking it was three. It's been five because it was in 2020 that I bought the book.
All right.
Because I bought it when she very first told me that. Anyway, so this is what she has to say. The book is really good about making you think about just how different our lives would be if we were all financially independent, and not just in the most obvious ways. In our world, as it exists, full financial independence is freedom. And freedom implies a lot of things we don't often think about. Like, sure, Ghodsee chose to use sex as a pinpoint, but just think about it. Food, for example. Just think about how radically people's eating habits would change if they never had to think about whether or not they can afford something and whether or not they will have the time to cook it, or how the fashion industry would change in a world where making a lot of different things fast wouldn't be the primary motivation of the companies making clothes because they would not be able to exploit workers. And speaking of workers, how the job market would change in a world where people aren't pushed by desperation to take just any job, where the job creators would have to compete for workers instead of workers having to compete for jobs. Ghodsee, of course, doesn't go that far. She is way too much a white liberal, Western liberal for that. But it makes you think, which is the point.
Yeah, for sure.
Honestly, as much as I recommend this book, the reason why I love it is the makes you think aspect. It's a very good book to make people start considering these things and leading them further left, much more left than where Ghodsee starts us off. The parallels between the modern manosphere and how men in the communist/socialist countries hated that now they have to be interesting instead of just throwing money at women to actually attract a partner is just chef's kiss.
That was
And yet
such, I
another,
mean, that was like in the first chapter of the book, I think, right? And
yep,
she talked about that, and I was like, that was
it's like,
perfect. How, what
it
a great
was.
way to encapsulate it. Like, oh, wow, it must suck now. Like when the men had to compete more instead of just having a bigger wallet or having, or
Mm-hmm,
having the command over the woman just because they are the only source of income in the house. I mean, that was the
mm-hmm.
implication of it. I loved that little part of the book. It was so
Oh, yeah.
appropriate.
I started hearing that song from The King and I, where he's talking about how the bee goes from flower to flower to flower. What would happen if, flower doesn't go from flower to bee to bee to bee, And I'm like, yeah, but how much better would it be if it did? Okay.
Right?
But she says, and yet another proof of how toxic and overwhelming patriarchy is, and how equality feels like oppression to people who are used to privilege, even when they don't realize that they've been privileged before. The pendulum swings the other way hard, as we all have had the pleasure to see in the current moment. And she says, Ghodsee is 100% right about the importance of representation. But as an American, she has a bit of a skewed way on what that means. And it shows in the fact that she seems to hold an opinion that any representation is good, when in reality, it's only better than no representation. Case in point, my prime minister is both a woman and a lesbian, and yet she constantly works against the rights of both women and queer people because being one of the good ones gives her, her wife, and their child money, power, and privilege. That's a
Uh,
great point.
uh-huh. Well, and something that was featured in the final chapter of the book, which was really the call to activism, right? It's like,
Yes.
hey, this is the problem. These are some of the solutions, and get the fuck out and vote. That's the last chapter of the book. I loved it. But she does.
Mm-hmm.
The book was, you said it was published 2018. Is that correct?
Yes. Yes.
So it's interesting to see how she is writing, looking forward to the 2020 election, and then it's also it's like, oh, sweet summer child when she's talking about Trump 1.0 in the
Yeah.
presidency under which she actually wrote the book. But she does cite, I can't remember, was it Laura Loomer or one of the other right-wing pundits who was advocating for her own disenfranchisement, right? Where a woman
Mm-hmm.
is saying like elections have better consequences when only the men can vote. And it's like, do you hear the words coming out of your
Right.
mouth? And you're the one saying these things.
Yeah.
Yeah, I just it made the book feel a lot more real when it's like there are people who are representatives of the oppression that they themselves are continuing to permit or giving license to. And that's what
Yes.
sounds like Friend from Serbia is talking about here.
Yeah. Yeah. She says all of the stuff I don't like about the book can be explained with Ghodsee being a white Western liberal. Laugh out loud. She's very individualistic, but she wants to make a point that socialism is the salvation, which comes off weird sometimes. She also lacks intersectionality, even when she claims to be employing it. And she makes the classic American mistake of equating collectivism and communism with things that are results of hierarchical social systems like patriarchy and generational traumas. You undoubtedly remember my rant about how, yes, communism, socialism skyrocketed women into STEM, but then because the economic model changed, but the social mindset of society did not, patriarchy then shot down the salaries and social prestige in every field that became equal in gender representation or dominated by women. She often doesn't make those distinctions, especially when she talks about women's issues around rape and sexual assault, abortion, and intimate partner violence. Also, her standing of the Nordic model when sex workers, even the ones who do not do it under duress, have hated it and fought against it since the idea was just floated is when the idea was first floated is just ugh. I mean, girls boss feminism is a plague, honestly. No labor and careers can't save us, won't save us, regardless of the type of labor or how much we enjoy it. Having financial independence will. I also think it's a bit reductive to talk about how financial independence influences the sex lives of women without delving into how it changes interpersonal relationships. But I also think that wasn't on the forefront of Godsee's mind when she set up her thesis. So I write that off as my personal gripe rather than something more objective. I wish she spent more time on talking about how financial independence can give people the ability to genuinely choose roles for themselves, like a woman choosing to be a housewife because that's the kind of work she actually genuinely enjoys, for example, or the way transactional nature that a system that pushes individualistic values and economic incentives for everything puts on interpersonal relationships, or how even people who enjoy labor need a work-life balance and meaningful activities that have nothing to do with monetization on either end of the equation and stuff like that. Maybe she would have realized the misstep she was making in her thesis then. So that's about it. Hope it makes sense. So I love that she said that.
Yeah.
All of those
Fantastic
things.
summary. Yeah, I love it.
It
Love it
is.
all.
And because it does come down to financial independence. My personal opinion of the book is that I think the women have better sex under socialism is is a nicely titillating title to get people to read it. And I
I agree.
think the subtitle and other arguments for economic independence is the main point.
Yeah,
And I
100%.
think that's the most valuable part of the book is these other arguments for financial independence.
Yeah,
Um,
as well as women's representation. And
yes.
because there's a long bit, I mean, she even talks about how she was sitting down with her daughter with a bottle of wine, ready to crack it open on the night of November 4th, 2016, right? And
Mhm.
expecting that that was going to be the first woman president. And, you know, the feeling of just total dejection. And she used that as kind of a springboard to talk about how women, when young girls have women who are in positions of power to look up to, a role model, then they themselves are able to envision a world where they themselves can be in that position. So even if you know a CEO, a woman CEO is appointed just in order to fill quotas or meet regulations or whatever the case is, that even if that is done in a you know just for a diversity's sake, that it has this knockdown effect or knock-on effect that younger people are going to see themselves and feel like, oh, I can actually achieve that. I can do that.
Right,
That was
right.
a very excellent point in all of this as well.
Yes. I read a few reviews that were written, and it was interesting because some of the big newspapers made sure that it was a woman writing the review, and to see which ones were for and against it, you know, which ones really ripped on it, which ones didn't, and what they had to say, and it. I mean, a lot of it showed whether they even read the whole book or not, which I found also interesting because I know not all reviewers read the entire book. They'll read bits and parts and everything, and that's about it. They don't go through the whole thing, which is really sad, honestly. Um, but one of the things to take note of, she is very, very careful not to advocate for a return to state socialism as practiced in the 20th century. She makes that point a few times in the book. Um, she makes that very clear in there. And any reviewer who says she is lauding all of those is like, you didn't really read it, did you? But what she is doing in this is suggesting that we take the parts of socialism and capitalism that work well and put those together to make a system that's better than what we have now, which I think is actually the best idea to come out of it.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think in pursuant to that, she does spend a fair amount of time, I don't know, pedestalizing is the right way to approach it. The Scandinavian countries, where,
Yes.
they are
Yeah.
very, very, have these extremely robust social security nets, have strong socialist policies. When I say socialist, I'm saying in comparison to more capitalist societies that are the rest of the more industrialized world. So there does seem to be a bit of fawning and pedestalizing of those countries, but I think that's a very common liberal thing to do is, we
Yes.
look at the most liberal countries and why they are so successful in their education rates, their healthcare rates, their infant mortality rates, their retirement quality of life rates, and all of these markers, all these statistics of why are these countries better than other countries. And it's kind of hard not to elevate them and say, what are they doing that we're not doing? And what can we do that they are doing to make
Right.
life better for us? And I think, there's some use in that, but also like they have, very unique economic situations that place them in, being fairly wealthy countries and able to provide a high
Hmm.
quality of life for their citizens. So there's
Right.
and some of the ideas and the concepts that they have don't necessarily scale out to much larger countries that do not have as many natural resources available to them. So there's some applicability of the comparisons, but then, sometimes the comparisons just are never going to work.
Right. Right. And there's stuff with feminism. It's kind of interesting when you look at the history of it, especially in the 20th century. There was a big focus on the sex side of it and on education for the most part, explaining all of that, and then kind of moved out of it and into more of the effects of sex gone wrong, like the Me Too movement. Um, and that brought it in a long overdue action on workplace harassment, made a place for women to speak out about abuses against them that had gone unexposed. I mean, Harvey Weinstein, right there, that's the biggest one, though the whole court thing on that, there were too many women filing. I'm like, okay, that means he's a problem. Not that the everything. So yes, the Me Too movement has ways to go on getting anything actually done because we have to work within the system we have. And the system is set up against getting this kind of thing taken care of when it's a very powerful man in charge. Hence things like the Epstein files. Yeah. Oh, wait, they don't exist, do they? Yeah.
Right.
Right.
Exactly.
Sure. Yeah. Anyway,
Uh,
so those things, when those things are made equal, when the judicial system is working properly the way it was set up, when it's like the point she makes about socialism is that the idealistic beginnings had a lot of feminism marked into them because it was making everybody equal pay, equal this, equal that. But Stalin abandoned those ideas in the face of economic constraints. And so, and it's also the other thing too is the Soviet bloc was not a good place for the LGBTQ plus community, which it was, I mean, nowhere, almost nowhere was.
yeah, for sure.
And so you only have, I mean, even today, there's only, small places that are. Um, but it's just not. Yes, Julie.
Yeah, I kind of doubt that they were that feminist before
Yeah.
because they were so anti-feminist that I kind of I kind of
Yeah,
doubt that what she was saying is really true. You could probably find a few people who were, but I don't know.
I think it's more like they would test the person because I remember my dad talking about Russian students he had during the Cold War, and how they would be tested in school to see where their strengths were, and then that was the job they were put in. And it didn't matter if you're a man or a woman, that's just where you would get put.
Yeah,
And you didn't have the choice, but you would be put there. Whereas nowadays, even now, even like in the STEM things, it's like with them, they didn't see, I don't think they really saw people as men and women per
yeah,
se, but they saw them as useful for this or that or the other. And so it wasn't as much feminist versus patriarchy. I think it was more like commodities, really. I mean, really
That's
is what it
probably
comes down
right.
to.
Yeah, that's probably
These are
right.
these are the cogs in the
Yeah,
machine. I don't care what your sexual organs are or your orientation. I'm just going to put you in the place where your cog works the
yeah,
best. Yeah.
yeah,
And so, but things like one of the things she points out is like East Germans and versus West Germans. The East Germans wanted things that they had, which were things like daycare and a creche system, which was, basically, I think it was basically like daycare, I think is what that is. But, have all these other things that you don't get under the capitalist system very
yeah,
often. And so, those things making it equals, making it so that the women could work in a job they wanted to do. But also things like with communism at the beginning, they had birth control and they had abortions and they had all that. But then Stalin decided not to and made abortion illegal. And
yeah.
so
And Ceausescu did
like,
too in Romania.
yeah, exactly. And
Yeah,
so there's all of those things.
the women in STEM kind of reminded me of a funny story. And Ceausescu's wife wanted to be a scientist, but she didn't want to learn anything. She didn't want to learn to read, and she didn't treat her teachers very well. And so Ceausescu just put her in charge of
Oh my
science.
God. Okay,
Wow.
that would be more useful than making her a scientist or putting her in charge of the
Yeah.
FDA.
And so, like, the people, like, she would approve, like, something like H2O being bought, but not water,
Oh my God.
because she didn't know the difference.
Right, exactly. See, that's where it gets stupid. Because I mean, ultimately it comes down to, and I think true feminism is what understands this, but the perception of feminism that you get from the right
Mhm,
doesn't see this, but that all people should be allowed to do the job they want to do.
mhm,
So if a man wants to stay home with his kids, he can stay home with his kids with no judgment. If a woman wants to stay home with her kids, she can do that with no judgment. If a woman wants to work or a man wants to work, if a woman never wants to have children, then she cannot have children with no judgment. It's this whole thing of,
mhm.
I'm not going to tell you what you have to do. I'm going to let you do what you want to do with your
Yeah,
life.
that's feminism in a nutshell,
That's
pretty much.
feminism.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. And it doesn't matter what your sexual orientation is. You can do whatever it is you want to do as long as it's not illegal, like be a serial killer or something like that. But that's always the caveat. But, but still, it's the job you want to do because that's what you want to do. Feminism isn't stopping women from being stay-at-home moms. They're just making it so that those who don't want to be can do something else and vice versa. Yeah.
In relation to that, I think the book did a good job of, I mean, this is at the very beginning of the book, is like you have to try and take into your calculations of the economy the invisible labor that is done largely by women. And that comes in the form
Yeah,
of all the way from childcare to elderly care. All of that
yeah,
invisible labor is not handled or is not quantified in any projections of
yeah,
GDP of any civilized Western countries, industrialized Western countries. Sorry, that is just invisible labor that is just free, and it really is. When you have free labor, it's called
yeah,
slave labor, and when that is when the gender dynamics are such that it's overwhelmingly done by only one the two
yeah.
like perceived genders, then that is just committing half of your population to slavery.
Yeah, that's why I
Right.
had Paris Paloma's Labor. That song stuck in my head reading this.
That's right. There you go. That makes
Yeah,
sense.
Yeah.
Yeah. To me, the last chapter, I mean, granted, there's two chapters in there that talk about sex. and stuff, and sex under socialism and everything else. So it hits with the title. But to my personal opinion is that the last chapter is the real point of the book, which, I mean, the subtitle, I think, is also the real point of the book. But the last chapter is titled "From Barricades to Ballot Boxes on Citizenship." And, you know, if you remember back in 2016, there was the Twitter hashtag repeal the 19th that started trending. And that's because it was in response to 2 tweets by prognosticator Nate Silver. I'm quoting from her book, by the way. And on his popular website, 538.com, Silver decided to predict the election outcome if only women and only men voted. The electoral map for the men showed a handy victory for Donald Trump, whereas the women's map showed a landslide for Hillary Clinton. And some Trump supporters then suggested that in order to ensure a Trump victory, the United States should repeal the 19th Amendment to the Constitution, which granted women suffrage. And there was even a female Trump supporter who said, I would be willing to give up my right to vote to make this happen. It's just like, wait, what? Are you really hearing what you're saying? You give up your right to vote. That means your right to vote on anything at all. Okay.
That's where we are.
So,
yeah. That's where
yeah.
in
What if you don't
2018.
have, I'm sorry.
Go ahead.
Yes, go ahead.
Yeah, I'm sorry. I'm terrible at interrupting people. What if you don't have a man to vote for you?
Exactly. It's like, I mean, Utah was one of the earliest ones to allow women to vote, but that's because all these polygamous families were like, hey, I've got 9 wives here and they're all going to vote the way I tell them to.
Yeah. Yeah.
So yeah, let's make them vote too. Yeah. Oh my gosh. Yeah. So
Iris Hark, did you have thoughts you wanted to share? Sorry that you had to interrupt there, and we haven't kind of like
you're
let
okay.
you speak a piece, but please, jump in at any point.
No, it's okay.
Uh-huh.
The way that I've lived right now, I'm disabled and I'm trying to live on Social Security disability. That's a real joke.
Yeah.
Universal guaranteed income would make a tremendous difference in my life, but it's not going to get there. We're not going to get it. We're not ever going to get it.
Yeah.
And I don't have a man to vote for me. My husband died 10 years ago, and I'm not likely to get one. I'm 60 years old. I'm not in the market. I am not in the market because even if I wanted to be, I couldn't be in the market for finding a man to vote for me. So yeah, this whole book, it was like, yeah, this is all very interesting and I loved listening to this, but this is just making me feel bad. Honestly, I listened to half of the whole last half of the book today, and I thought, oh my gosh, what am I going to talk about? This is just making me feel so sad. But I think it is a really important issue.
Yes.
Because of the way things are right now, the men's movement, they're pushing not for positivity for anybody but themselves, and that didn't used to be what the men's movement was about.
No.
So, that 19th Amendment thing is very much on the line now.
Yes, it very much is. It very much is. I mean, the Dobbs decision, that was bad enough, but the 19th Amendment, if that gets repealed, that would devastate majority of this country. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it really
And
would.
I think
Over half of us.
every woman advocating for it, I don't think they're thinking about what will happen when it does, if it does.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Another quote from her book in the last chapter, she says, while always wrapped in a thick blanket of misogyny, what all of the men's rights activists agree on is that women vote for progressive candidates because, and this is in italics, it is in their own economic interests to do so.
Yeah.
For sure.
Yeah.
It is. It
Because
absolutely
they vote for
is.
their own interest. Yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And it's interesting, like people tend to vote for who they think is going to be
Mm,
best for their economic interests. So when people are taught a lie for 40 years that if you just unleash the free market, then all of the benefits of all the billionaires are going to trickle down to everybody else, and your taxes are going to get cut, they're going to vote in their own economic self-interest. So this is not like a mind-blowing thing that people vote in their own economic self-interest. It just so happens that capitalism has set up a situation where men's best self-interest is seen as competing with women's best self-interests in this, when it's all like, no, capitalism is just anti-human self-interest, okay? It is
Yes.
only
Mhm.
pro just 1% self-interest. So we should
Yeah.
all
Yes.
be voting against that fucking system because it is oppressing all of us, especially if you do not have certain reproductive organs.
Right. Right.
Yes.
that I'd push back and say that white women did vote for Trump, though.
Mm-hmm. They did.
So it's not all women.
Yeah,
No,
yeah, that's
and
fair.
and that's also a thing, is not all women did that. Yeah.
So not very intersectional.
Yeah,
Exactly.
Yeah, well, I mean
yeah.
that there are a number of people that voted for men that voted for um, the female candidate. It wasn't all or would. It's not all necessarily right down the middle, as you're saying. It goes both ways.
Right.
I know my
It
husband would
does.
never, never, ever have voted for Trump. He was a,
Right.
he always cared about other people. And,
Mm-hmm.
living the way I have to live now, he would hate this. I'm sorry. I'm going to end up
It's
being
okay.
all about me, and I don't want to do that.
Hey, don't worry. Well, that's the other thing, is it's the personal application, because I completely understand.
Mhm.
I mean,
Mhm.
completely. I've got an application for disability, and I'm still waiting on. It's been there for a year and a half.
Mhm.
But yeah, I totally understand where you're coming from on this. And so, yeah, it
Mhm.
what she also brings up in here in that last chapter is about, and I remember this discussion happening so much, is how many millennials were voting and looking to Bernie Sanders as
Yeah.
an inspiration. And she points out why. Yeah,
Yes,
Mhm.
exactly.
yes, that was me. I wanted Bernie
Mhm.
so bad. And I was like, you know
I
what?
know.
Hey, Hillary isn't Bernie, but she is not Trump. Hell yes, I'll
Yeah.
vote for
Yeah.
her. And
Yes.
and then again, it's like, please, please let the nom be Bernie. Please. He is actually capturing the young generation. He is destigmatizing the word socialism. And I love how
Mhm.
much time the book spent on Bernie. And I mean, she says even
Yeah.
in the first chapter,
Mhm.
like, I'm a resolute Bernie supporter. Like,
Mhm.
yes,
And
Yeah.
she's
yeah,
not a millennial. She's only three
exactly.
years younger than me.
Yeah.
And so she's like 55
Mhm.
now. Yeah, she says that this conservatives fear this growing youth disaffection with global capitalism, and they worry that American women, and especially younger millennial women, will vote for left-leaning or socialist candidates, especially when women understand that they disproportionately benefit from state regulation of markets, single payer health care, tuition
Mhm.
free post secondary education. I mean, which countries do that, where
Mhm.
universities, colleges are free or paid for by the state? I can't remember which countries do
That's-
that. I think it's
I'll look it up right now.
Scanin.
I don't, yeah,
I
but I
think
mean,
Japan does, but I think too it's like some of the Scandinavian ones.
Yeah, I know Sweden
Um,
does. There's
yeah.
a uh, YouTube I can't think of words right now. A creator that is from Sweden, and he's always talking about, well, when I went to college, it was free, and I'm like, I wish that
Yeah.
it had been like that for me.
Oh
It
my
well,
took me a
God,
yeah,
while to
yes.
get through.
it's
Hmm.
it's a smattering of Scandinavian countries and a fair amount of Eastern European countries. I mean, we have Germany, we have Norway,
Hmm.
Finland, Austria, Greece, Czech Republic, Denmark, Sweden, France, Iceland, Brazil, Luxembourg, of course, Belgium, Slovenia, Argentina, Egypt, Kenya, Italy, Estonia, Poland, Bulgaria, India, Hungary, and Cyprus. There are a few with,
Quite a few.
very, very cheap that aren't on that list, but those are ones with free higher
Hmm.
education.
Hmm. Yeah, and these kids, they're born into this system and they're seeing the bad effects. They're seeing what's happening, but also they're seeing their
Hmm.
parents vote for people who are going to remove that Social Security and all that shit. And these millennials are going to be stuck having to pay for them in a world that's not set up to make it easy for them to do so. And it's like, yeah, you know, I mean, Social Security would work if everybody paid into it, which means, you know, the top 1% of the nation, if they were paying into it, no one else could, and it would still be enough money for everyone.
If we just tax Elon Musk, I mean.
I know, right?
Oh my God,
That's why I've always advocated for a flat tax to everybody, no exceptions, because that would make things so much easier. And over time, that would go down. But at any rate, it's never going to happen because the people who have the most power are never going to let that go.
Yeah. And and the people who vote for them believe that they are doing so in their own best interest.
Yeah, they
That's
do.
the thing
Because they
about
believe
it.
that trickle down.
Yes,
Yeah.
exactly.
She also says here in the last chapter, ultimately, this thing we call government is not inherently good or bad. It is a vessel that is steered by those who happen to control it at any one moment in time. That's why they call it the ship of state. I'll also venture to say that this thing we call the market is neither good nor bad, but merely a tool that can be used by those who believe it will further their interests. These days, it seems the market is a tool used by the super rich to increase their wealth, which they use to buy influence and power over our government. Yep. Even though we have presidential elections once every 4 years, real political power has accrued to the super rich, and our government does their bidding while pretending to represent the people. Just as state socialist governments in Eastern Europe once did the bidding of dictators and high-ranking elites while pretending to work for the good of the people. The difference between governments and markets is that governments, or at least democratic governments, are ostensibly meant to serve the citizens. That's the whole idea of one person, one vote. Markets, on the other hand, are always going to be rigged in favor of those who start the game with the biggest pile of cash.
Yep.
Big bingo. Big bingo. Yep. That really kind of summarizes the entirety of the problem. And I love that she's using that to label the American government system as a plutarchy, right? This is a plutocracy. This is not a democracy. The people voting only is really, at the end of the day, mostly ceremonial. The people who are controlling government and politics are the people who are making the most money off of government and politics.
Yep. And the religions that have a few $100 billion.
Oh my God.
I'd say it's a cakeotocracy.
Yep. So the solution is real. Yeah. Oh, yes, for sure. The least competent, which is what we've got in the government.
Yeah.
Like a few people like Kennedy. Anyway.
People would say, oh, that the Illuminati's not real. Well, yeah, it is. It's very real, just not magic. It's
not magic.
They're real. And they control everything just about.
I mean, it doesn't matter what the name of the boys club is. It is the boys club that is controlling it, right?
Yeah.
It's the rich fucks, the rich boys who are actually controlling it.
Yeah, they are. They are. You know, it's like Utah once voted to make medical marijuana legal, and it had a great vote on that. And then they went and had this little committee to see how to make it happen. And of course, the church got to put in a representative on that committee, and they made it happen the way they wanted it to. Sure, the people spoke, but they didn't get what they wanted. Yeah. So that's how it works. You know, and way back when I first started on the podcast, when we were doing the Naked Communist, and I was the one who ended up taking that one over and presenting it, there was so much of that I didn't even know, because I hadn't really studied communism that much growing up. We just got a thing of, be just this half an hour thing about it in school, and that was about it. But the more I delved into it and looked into, okay, is he being accurate on this, or is he presenting the Mormon view on this, and seeing what it was, and consulting with a friend from Serbia who lives in a country that was taken over by communists as well as Nazis, all that kind of stuff, and finding out more and more about it and seeing all the drawbacks, all the good and the bad of everything, and realizing, yeah, law of consecration is the way the church set it up. That's communism.
Mhm.
That's just communism, straight up. As much as they want to say otherwise, it's communism.
Mhm.
Yep.
And, and there's the only way you can make that work is when the entire fucking planet does it.
Yeah.
You can't otherwise,
Or
Yeah.
actually wants to do it.
wants to do it.
It doesn't
Yeah.
work unless everybody's bought into it.
Everybody has to, and you can't force people into it.
Yeah,
And that's one of the problems with the Soviets, with the Chinese, all of them, is they just forced him. I mean, Chairman Mao was foul in how he took it over.
Yeah, they would
It
force
was
people
even worse.
out of their homes to live
Yeah.
on. Yeah, and they just take their homes, which
They
people
did.
don't
They-
like.
No, we really don't like that. That's why Mormons got kicked out of Missouri, is because they were trying to take everybody else's homes, not because they were getting
Yeah.
persecuted. Okay. Anyway,
Yeah, there's no
we always say that.
persecution there.
But it's like, taking the professors in university and throwing them out on the farms and bringing in the farmers to teach in the universities is the most stupidest thing to do
That didn't
if
make
you want
sense.
educated people. But if you don't want them educated, that's what you
Communism's
do.
not good. Yeah.
No, it's not. And
Well,
so
and what
and
I
I
do,
agree that there are parts of socialism that are good. There are parts of it. I don't think all of it is.
Yeah.
All of communism isn't, but there are parts of socialism that are. And I mean, the only time communism, this is what I realized looking through all this, the only time communism actually was kind of succeeding is when they brought in the level of capitalism. So it's like
Yeah, I
Stalin would
think
have to
it's
do
like a
that
mixture,
periodically.
probably.
Yeah, exactly. I think there's a mixture of it. But the problem you have is who's in charge? Because I mean, here in the United States, it's never going to happen as long as the richest people are the ones in charge.
Yeah.
They're never going to allow anything like that.
Yeah.
And so, how do you make this happen? Most of these things, the way you can change it, the only way that governments have ever been changed is, if I'm remembering correctly on everything, the only way they've been changed dramatically like that is through revolution from the bottom.
Yeah.
Yeah. And yeah, it's like we've had some really nasty ones, like the French Revolution, which holy fuck, that was nasty. I understand why. I understand all of that. And I understand they got their inspiration as well from the Americans. But it's like, I don't think that's quite the way to go about doing it, because murder is never a victory.
But what? Sorry.
Then they
The French
installed
Revolution. They
Napoleon.
had.
Okay,
Yes.
Iris Arc.
yeah,
Sorry. I'm sorry. Like I said,
It's
I'm really
okay.
bad about interrupting. Okay. The thing about the French Revolution and the American Revolution is we didn't have our king living in the middle of us. They
Yes,
did.
exactly.
And so they could go right for all the people that were oppressing them. And it's kind of hard to attack from across the ocean. All they could do was try and defend their colonies, and that was not an easy thing. It was an impossible thing to do, basically.
Well,
Also, the King of England was insane at that
Yeah.
point.
Oh,
And
yeah,
so that made it a
actually-
little easier.
100%. Yeah.
Yeah.
one of the problems with all the English soldiers there, and like
Mhm.
they were allowed to just take
Mhm.
over your home, and
Yep.
yeah,
They could just kick you
Oh,
out.
yeah.
I think that's one of the things with the movie Last of the Mohicans, the Daniel Day-Lewis one, in the beginning in particular, shows really well when you see how the soldiers deal with the farmers. They make all these promises they have no intention of keeping just to get them out there to fight. And it showed that whole issue. And in France, with the French Revolution, I mean, that was nasty. People were being starved, which you do that and you're toast, especially when King Louis, the 17th? Is that which one he was? Was just
16 maybe.
living high on the hog. It's either
Mhm.
16th or 17th, I forget which. And just no understanding at all. And then yes, he was pretty stupid as it was. He just was not
Mhm.
smart at all. And he did nothing for himself because that's the way it was. I mean, to me, I'm just like, that court was ridiculous because they had people assigned to them and were like, one put on their left stocking, another
Yeah.
person put on their right, one put on their left shoe, another put on their, I mean, all this stuff is just weird ass shit.
Mhm.
But, and then
Yeah.
them getting executed, no one stepped in from any of the other monarchies because they didn't think it would happen. Because people didn't
Mhm.
execute royalty because they were used as a bargaining, something for bargaining with later. So
Yeah.
anyway,
Mhm.
and that did change. It changed a lot of things when it came to revolutions. But
Yeah.
yeah, then what you had in the Soviet, or well, Russia and in China, is these revolutions were the takeover of communism.
Yeah.
And this wasn't the people themselves really doing it. This was run by people at the top who were
You know,
scary as fuck.
it's just what we
Yeah.
got now, except our form of government is different, but
Yeah.
it's still the same thing. And
Yes.
part of the problem here is that we have been taught socialism and communism are the same thing, and they
Mm-hmm.
so are not.
Yeah.
They are not.
They're not, yeah. And it's interesting, the same thing happened with the Tsars, what happened with Louis
Yes.
and Marie Antoinette. They
Yes.
didn't
Yeah.
think,
True.
they thought they were invincible too, that
Mhm.
Yes.
people loved them.
Yeah. And I don't know if I'm trying to remember. I don't think they saw themselves like gods, like the leaders of Japan did before World War II.
Mhm.
But they were close to it. Yeah. I mean,
Mhm.
Henry VIII, he was a lot of that. Yeah, I mean, they see
Yeah.
themselves as infallible, as invincible, and whatever they say is what's right. Kind of like the prophet will never lead the church
Mhm.
astray. We can
Mhm.
play anything to Mormonism.
Yeah. Yeah.
Well, the
Yeah, it's a microcosm.
Yes, it
Yeah,
is.
Mhm.
well, I think the comparison is apt because what the real problem is authoritarianism, right? When
Yep.
people are
Hmm.
running governments or churches or organizations with an authoritarian bend, then the voice of the
Mhm.
people is necessarily suppressed through that action.
Yes.
And that's kind of what we are feeling. We're living under the weight of
Hmm.
that exact thing right now, is because
Mhm.
money is speech in American government, and none of us have any fucking money to do anything to
Right.
have any speech.
Hmm.
So of course, this we are living under a modern taxation without representation. So
Yeah.
I mean, what we're lamenting is the same thing as like communism was an aggressive form of autocratic socialism, right? But
Hmm.
socialism and
Mhm.
communism are not the same thing. They are
Right.
absolutely
Mhm.
not the same thing.
Though
I agree
to
with
the
that point.
Yeah, to the right here, the political right, they definitely put them the same because communism is the big bad guy.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
they will always, always, always put them to same. It's just like this whole pro-choice versus pro-life. Yeah. When it's
And you
really
can't disentangle.
anti-choice, not pro-life. Yeah.
Yeah, you
Mhm.
can't disentangle the religious motivations out of it either, because
Yeah.
communism
No.
was it was I mean the first major atheist focused or secular world
Yeah.
power, right? Whereas
Yeah.
like
Yeah.
America has been a secular nation, but it's always been a Christian nation.
Hmm.
Like, let's be honest, right? So anything that we do is okay, but anything that is, a specifically secular country that, does not aggressively promote some form of religion, that is the devil. So that is what inspired the Red Scare, was extreme right, like conspiracy
Hmm.
Christianity. And
Yeah.
we're still just still have not disentangled that rhetoric from the
Yeah.
reality.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And
And we even
communism. Sorry. Sorry.
yeah, and we even deposed democratically elected communist leaders,
Yes.
like in
Mhm.
Chile.
Yep.
Yes.
Uh,
Exactly.
Go ahead, Arsar.
Iris Arc.
It's gone. But it's fine.
It'll come back. It'll come back.
Yeah. Yeah.
No, we understand.
Mhm.
Um, she says in here also, while the first step is definitely voting and mobilizing others to get out and vote, casting a ballot is not enough. Young people need to educate themselves in the basics of political theory. Read books, watch videos, listen to podcasts, peruse infographics, whatever it is you need to do to expand your understanding of how and why we organize into nation states and allow ourselves to be ruled by others, and how and why this has changed over time. And don't just stay in your comfort zone. Open your mind to opposing perspectives, no matter how painful it might be. And there's some stuff that'll get mentioned in the episode dropping tomorrow that is like it comes down to just because something makes you uncomfortable doesn't mean you should stop talking about it.
Yeah. And then I just heard this statistic today that 43% of those who could have voted in the last election didn't. We have to educate them too. And luckily we have the internet. We have the same thing that's bringing us down is the thing that's going to help us get up. We can connect with each other.
And kids today are smarter. I think they use their brains better than we did. They had the same brains we did, but they just use them better and they know how to do things quicker. But I think they also question more. And I think they're more willing to check into things. And I think that's what makes them smarter than we were then at their age, because it's like, I mean, I've said this before and I'll say it 100 times, is, when we were putting together a paper, back before the internet, back before computers in every home, we were going to the library, getting into the card catalog, looking up the books, finding the books, checking them out if we were allowed to. If not, then taking notes there, checking to make sure our notes were accurate as we handwrite them and everything. And then going home and amassing the whole thing together, handwriting this paper, fixing it, adjusting it, blah, 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 and then typing it on a typewriter to turn in. Takes a lot of fucking time. That, a 3-page paper might take you 2 or 3 weeks to do when you're having to put in the research like that. Whereas now, well, exactly, one that like that, somebody putting together the exact paper that I wrote for a 10th grade English class, a kid doing that, one that took me 3 weeks to do, can do that in 3 hours because of what they have access to and everything. And even just things like not having to handwrite the quote from the book, they can copy and paste it, all of those kind of things. It's like the difference is huge, but also they know how to access it. And then when you get a good teacher who says, okay, use ChatGPT to write this paper and then go fact check it. And make sure that ChatGPT was correct. All of those things are teaching kids how to research, how to look into things and not be influenced by whoever pops up first. That's important. And so that's the one I was like, I like this, is expanding your mind with extensive reading. Oh, there it is.
Yay.
There's my Pride and Prejudice quote. Okay. All right. You're welcome, everyone. You knew it was coming sometime.
It had to happen.
Everyone knew it was going to happen. But anyway,
I want to comment on that.
Everybody does
as well. But Iris Arc, it sounded like you want to jump into.
Oh, I mean, there's a biblical scholar. I mean, I love to study this stuff. I'm an atheist. I'm not a believer, but it is so fascinating for me. There's a biblical scholar named Dan McClellan, and I watch him every day. He's got something that he wants to put forth. This is the way it really is. This is what they meant. It's not about what they say it is now. But the thing he always says is learn to think clearly and Google competently. Googling competently is very important. And that, they have to teach them how to do that. Yeah, because it's really difficult to learn on your own, as I'm sure we all know.
I'm writing that down because I like that.
That's a good line.
I'm like, that needs to be a meme.
I think one of the effects. There you go.
Yes, that's the book. I read it too. I listened to it, but yeah.
Excellent.
He says that in there.
One of the, and I just kind of want to springboard off of that one thing, the benefit, just like you were saying, Iris Arc, of like, the internet is bringing us down, but it's also going to help to rescue us from our current plight.
Yes.
I think one of the impacts that the internet has had on younger generations, on digital natives, is a blanket distrust of authority in the
Yes.
best possible way, right? Like
Yeah.
the way that I think of it is like, I mean, just, when we were recording last night, we had to pause because I had an extended family member who called me and he had a church history question. He's like, "Where do the garments come from?" He's older than me. He's, my generation, but he's older than me. But he is like, "Hey, I know that Bryce studies this, so I'm gonna ask him about this,
Yeah.
because he's somebody who I know is like, who knows about these things. So I'm gonna trust what he
Mhm.
tells me on these things." Whereas his kids, they're going to ask ChatGPT, where did the garments come from? And it's going to
Yes.
tell them. They're not going to ask their parents. They're not going to ask their seminary teacher. They're not going to ask their bishop. They're going to ask the internet where it comes from. And it's going to tell them essentially what I told my extended family member, and that it's
Mhm.
Masonic in origin. And that's like, just distrusting authority is like the current youngest generation. They
Mhm.
have more distrust of authority than any generation that's come
Yeah.
before, and I think that right there has an earth-shattering, government-shattering effect to it. That is going to
Right.
be really interesting to see as they continue to age into voting
No,
brackets.
Mhm. We just can't
Yeah.
let them make AI and chat. God, you can't talk. The chat AI. We can't let them make that their um their authority because
Yeah.
they're not
or
going to
the
listen to
brain,
us as
yeah.
authorities anymore. It's their authority, and that's
Yeah.
not good. That's really not good.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Because it can be manipulated to tell you the wrong
It can.
stuff.
Yes, it
Right.
sure
And
can.
it
Yeah.
does. It just tells you the most popular stuff per se,
Hmm.
but it's not always accurate. And that, yeah,
Yes.
that's why I like it when teachers have their kids go fact check
Hmm.
it and
Yeah,
prove
I
one
like
way
that
or the
idea
other.
too. Hmm.
Yeah, because I was like,
Thought that was
that
interesting.
teaches so many ways to deal with it. Because then it's not, oh, Chat GPT AI is all bad, because it's not. It's not all
No, it's
bad.
not.
It's not all good, but nothing is. Nothing's all good or all bad. There's just it's impossible for that to happen.
It's all a
Hmm.
matter
And
of
so,
dose.
yeah, it teaches you how to use it well, to use it usefully, and
Hmm.
not be blindly taught by it, not be blinded by it. Yeah.
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 It scrapes the internet, and the internet, half of the internet at least, is bad stuff.
Yeah,
You have to
it's
learn
wrong.
to
Yeah.
read that out of what you're getting from your
Yeah.
chat bot that's, or not bot, but the chat app that you're using
Yes.
to do your learning with. Yeah.
Well, even like Google AI, but see, like Google
Yeah.
AI will
Yes.
show the some of the articles it pulls from
Hmm.
for the information, which you can go check and all that stuff. And so
Hmm.
I tend to use it a lot more, a hell of a lot more than I expected I would. Because I've had to rethink my opinions about AI as it was. And
Hmm.
you've all heard me go through all of that. You've heard me from the beginning to, as I've progressed through on everything, because I just talk about everything on there. But at any rate, but that is a thing, is learning to see there is a value and what is the value. Um, but yeah,
Hmm.
yeah,
Yeah, you can't
mm,
discount it. No.
completely. No, especially because it is the future. So
Hmm.
you have to learn how to apply it the best way into the future. Yeah. It's like 3D printing,
Mhm.
which they have printers that can build houses, and they're
I
working
saw one of those
on,
recently. Yeah,
I know, and it's so cool. And
really
there's
is.
also ones that they're working on to build soft things like organs, body organs,
Mhm. Yeah.
and to match the individual, which I was like, holy shit, just think of what organ donors, people who need, an organ replacement, these lists of them and
Hmm.
everything else. It's like, you can still be approved on one, but then denied as soon as it gets there because of
Hmm.
whatever issue might be going on, and all this stuff, or whatever disease the person might have had, like if they had
Hmm.
Hep C or something, or whatever.
Hmm.
But But if you get one that's made specifically for you, it's like I'll use me as an example. If they could actually 3D print them, they could make me a heart and new lungs that are unscarred and are made specifically for my body. Might not have to, I don't know, I probably still would have to do the meds to keep me from rejecting it, but still, it's like, could replace all of that, which they can't do right now.
Yeah,
All
yeah.
of those kind of things. It's like, it would be the coolest thing ever, one
Yeah.
made to suit me. And it's like, yeah, that's
Mhm.
probably 50 years in the future, but it's what they're
Yeah.
working on. This is cool as hell. But if they stopped making machines way back when they were 3D printing
Mhm.
guns,
Yeah.
what what are all the things we wouldn't have? Not just,
Right.
dragon figures in my cabinet right there. Wouldn't just be
Uh,
that. They're making bones now for people who've had a limb
Mhm.
amputated. They haven't
yeah,
been able to
it's
make it
cool.
strong
Mhm.
enough for a leg bone yet, but
But that's in the
that's what
near
they're
future,
it's
right?
in
Yeah.
the future.
Yeah.
Holy shit. So,
Yeah. If they use their DNA, it's exact match. So you probably
exactly.
wouldn't have to be on the rejection medication for long. As soon as
Exactly.
your body
You
said,
wouldn't.
"Oh yeah, that is part of us."
Oh, that
Yeah.
is part of me. He was
Hmm.
just
Yeah.
gone for a
Yep.
little while. You
Yeah.
fixed it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You can live
Thanks
forever
for the new
now.
ones. That is a thing, though.
It
That's
just
a
got
thing.
rejuvenated. I know. It'd be cool.
Mm-hmm.
Hmm.
I know it'll never happen for me, but it's something I'm like 50 years from now, somebody might be able to do that. They may be able to do that regularly. And it just, to me, is the coolest thing ever. Yeah. I mean, we're kind
Certainly.
of off track on this book, but it's also a lot of this has to do with, because that's another thing about capitalism, I think that is one of the good parts of it is you do get people creating new things and competing with other companies to create the
Mm-hmm.
better thing. You get flaws like, I mean, we do with medicine, we do with all of that stuff as well.
Mm-hmm.
But when it's working right, you have people inventing stuff that needs to be invented.
Well,
Yeah.
I think it's important to disentangle like capitalism for wants, socialism for needs, and healthcare
There
is
we
a
go.
need,
Yeah.
right? Like, I mean,
Hmm.
that's I think it's a pretty simple bucket system, and it's going to fall apart the harder you examine it. But just as a general idea, as a general categorization, things that we need, shelter over our head, food, nutritional food, and not, not a non-nutritious food that kills us faster than it actually nourishes us,
Mm-hmm.
and healthcare and school and higher education. If we can socialize those things, then let the free market do what it's going to do for
Yeah.
all of the bullshit that we want to buy, all the like little dumb things that we make for each other, all the little widgets.
Mm-hmm.
That's fine. Capitalism is
The
just fine for
dragons.
those things. The dragons,
Mm-hmm.
you want to buy the best and coolest and most awesomest 3D printed dragon. And you
I
want to buy
do.
it because there is a rich, competitive market of making the coolest, awesomest, most badass looking 3D printed dragon. For the widgets,
Yeah.
the things you want, capitalism is great. But,
Yes.
when it comes to like medical research and stuff like that, right? Capitalism, it incentivizes profit. It does not incentivize actual innovation. And people
Yes.
are constantly trying to innovate in medicine where there is no money, and they are not able to get studies funded. They are not able to get products out into the sphere because there's, a super rare condition that only one in 30,000 people suffer from, but it's a debilitating
Mm-hmm.
condition that could be solved with a little bit of money and a bit of research going into it. But there's no
Hmm.
market incentive to solve that problem because so few
Right.
people are going
Yeah.
to buy that drug that's going to be $8,000 a vial, right? Like that's capitalism has no place in our healthcare. It has no
Right.
place in keeping us healthy.
Yeah.
It
Yes.
incentivizes people being sick, and it's
Mhm.
an illness industry, not a health industry.
Yes, that is fair.
It shouldn't
That
be
is
an
true.
industry at all.
Yeah, exactly.
Hmm. Hmm.
Back to the book. uh, Like related to that screed as well. I like how much because I mean the provocative title of it obviously is going to tailor some of the material to be
Mhm.
about, you know, women's status, women's issues in it, but so much of it seemed attached to like women have the most freedom when they have the access to reproductive care. That's
Yes.
just a very simple
Mhm.
baseline. The countries that have the best health care and support for women in reproductive care, as well as post-birth, those are the countries that have the highest gender parity in the professions and government representation and so on and so forth. And I thought that those
Mhm.
are very helpful, like studies and things that she
Yeah.
presented, just to
Yeah.
Yes.
hammer that point home.
Yeah. She makes the point also, she said,
Mm.
you are not a commodity. Your depression and anxiety are not just chemical imbalances in your brain, but reasonable responses to a system that thrives on your dehumanization. As Mark
Yes.
Fisher argued in 2012, mental health is a political issue.
Oh,
And to the
definitely.
extent, yes, it absolutely is.
That's
And to
I'm
the
bipolar,
extent,
so yeah,
oh, yeah, yeah, you see, you get it,
mm,
you understand. I deal
pretty
with
much.
depression regularly.
Yeah.
Yep. Oh my. And to the extent that our private lives inform our mental health, relationships are a political issue too. We must push back
Mm.
at the dominant ideology that mangles our social bonds into nodes of economic exchange. We can
Mhm.
share our attentions without quantifying their value, giving and receiving rather than selling and buying. Women need to establish what I want to call effective sovereignty to gain full control of our emotional labor. In the summer of 2017, the awning of a bookstore in Munich read, Love Kills Capitalism. If people are
That's
happy in their
good.
intimate lives, if they feel loved and supported for who they are rather than what they own, capitalism
Mhm.
loses one of the most valuable tools it has. It can no longer convince us that we need to buy more things to fill the void left by our lack of personal connection. Our
Mhm.
growing anomy and not I don't even know how to say this word, anomie is profitable
So many.
by preventing our affections from becoming yet another thing to be bought and sold. We are taking the first steps of
Mhm.
resistance.
Yes.
And I think about too is that what is one of the things that people that have really grown in the last 30 years in the United States? It's storage shed
Yeah.
companies, because
Yeah.
people
Yeah.
keep buying stuff and they have no place
Mhm.
to put it. But instead
Mhm.
of getting rid of it, they pay for a storage shed to go store it in.
Yes. Yes. Yeah. I had
It's
to really
like,
tear
yeah,
down whenever I lived here, moved here, and
mm-hmm,
because I lived in a much bigger house, I had two bedrooms and the garage full of stuff, and so I
wow,
had to. Here I have two small bedrooms to live in, and the garage is not much, and I just don't have any place to put that stuff. I had it. This is sad. I had a good part of it sitting in my driveway under the carport. So it was pretty safe, but it was sitting in my driveway for long enough that the city came and said, if you don't do something with that, we're going to come clean it out. I could not
yeah,
do it. I'm sorry, I'm just me. I don't have anybody to come, oh, honey, go help me move that stuff. It's just me, and I have a physical disability too. So it's had out there till they came and got it, and they took it away. Uh, they were nice enough to let me be out there to say, would you please save that, please save that, and they went and put it in my
mm-hmm,
shed, but it was
mm-hmm.
still, yeah, way too much shit, stuff I don't need. And yeah, it's still a whole bunch of stuff that I could definitely get rid of,
Right.
but I've really learned to live without a bunch of stuff. But you're right,
Yeah.
storage sheds, and I had two
Mm-hmm,
in my backyard that were here when I got here, luckily, because they
mm-hmm,
got stuff in them too. Yeah.
yeah.
Yep.
And that's one of the ways capitalism works is they get you to
Yeah.
buy stuff because
Oh,
they
yes.
make you think you need it.
What's
I mean,
Hmm.
all of us
the
kids watching Saturday morning cartoons, we knew what kind of cereal we wanted.
uh-huh. It's the George Carlin line, shit we don't want with money we don't have.
Yes.
Yep,
Yeah.
Yeah.
exactly. So yeah, yeah. it is a
Hmm.
good book, and it's
It
like
is.
what friend from Serbia said, it makes you think,
Mhm.
which is really what a book like this needs to do, is it needs to make you think. Yeah.
And the provocative title helps.
Yeah,
It
it
does,
does.
Yeah.
I
because
Well,
think
that
that,
yeah.
brings you in.
yeah, there's going to be a lot of people who pick up this book like, what? Hang on.
Mhm.
I don't know if I
Yeah.
agree with this leftist, but they're going to read it just because they want to know how it's even possible that women have better sex in those damn commie countries and
Mhm.
maybe come away with a slightly different perspective on capitalism.
Mhm.
That's great.
Right.
That's great. That's the purpose of having a provocative title.
Mhm.
Yes. And I mean, it's clickbaiting in some respects. I mean, not really, because she does discuss it in there, but it does bring in the underlying message of socialism gives you economic independence.
Yeah.
And so,
Yeah.
which is really the key.
Mhm.
Yeah.
And by and large also expanding rights, and that's right to healthcare and especially right to divorce, right? How much women
Mhm.
had much more freedom in socialist and communist countries because divorces were granted when their husbands would not support them and the kids,
Yeah.
and they would just be able to get a divorce. And it's something that's so very conservative right wing today of like, oh, the increasing divorce rates just means that the country's going down the tubes, the social fabric. It's like, no, no, divorces, every single divorce that
Mhm.
happens is a good divorce. I mean, most divorces are very,
Yep.
very bad and they happen through very bad circumstances and it leaves everybody in a really bad mood and bad things happen throughout it. But at the end of the day, every single divorce that happens because it's necessary. And I see,
Mhm.
Yeah.
and I view abortion the same way, right? Like
Mhm.
abortion is the best thing that happens on this planet. Yeah, it's a seen as a horrible thing, and oh, you're killing an unborn baby. Well, no, fuck that. Every abortion
Mhm.
that happens is a necessary abortion. Therefore, it is a good
Mhm.
abortion.
Yep.
Yeah.
94, not, I read this recently. 90% of the abortions that are performed are medically required. They're not
Yeah,
just,
yeah,
I just don't want to have this
Exactly.
baby.
Yeah.
They're
yeah.
it's so, yeah, there's so
There's
many
some,
women.
yeah.
You've heard about this, so many women dying because they can't get the health procedures that they need. It's sad,
Hmm.
but yeah.
It is sad.
Yeah,
Well, it's just like the birth of my son. If they couldn't have revived him, it would have been listed as an abortion. The
yeah,
fact that they
That's not right.
revived him, it was a birth, but otherwise that's what it would have been. And I still would have done it knowing that. I mean, I knew that going in. Yeah.
yeah. It used to be that men wouldn't grant divorces just to hurt the women
Hmm.
because then she couldn't move on and marry somebody else.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Exactly.
so she's just
Which
stuck. Yeah,
men in the church today do that about
yeah.
breaking a ceiling as
Hmm.
well.
Mhm.
Yep.
Yeah. It's a point of leverage. It's
Yeah.
it's
Hmm.
it's a systematic, structural way that one gender has control over the other.
Yes.
Yeah, that
Yes.
happened to Alexander Hamilton's mom.
Yes.
Her husband wouldn't divorce her, and so that's why Alexander was a bastard.
Ah, that's right.
Yeah,
Interesting.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Yeah, well, that's another thing too, is that sure, there's more divorces today than there were 50 years ago, but that's because women are able to
yeah,
access them. Before that, they were stuck in a bad marriage. There's nothing they could do about it
yeah.
because they couldn't get a job, they couldn't get a bank account without their husband's permission, they couldn't get a credit card without their husband's
Mhm.
permission. I was like the 70s before a woman could do any of that. And so there was no point in getting divorced because then you'd be put on welfare and
Yeah,
you would have no place to go, no place to live, no way to support you and your children
yeah,
Yeah.
because you couldn't get a divorce.
yeah. And
Yeah.
people clutch their pearls over that statistics. Like Bryce says, it's good. It's a good thing.
It's
It is.
yeah.
It's a
Yeah.
good thing.
And
Yep.
and so it's just yeah. And I think too that people that complain about it saying, well, if you're gonna have sex, then you got to just deal with the fact that you're pregnant and you can't do anything about it. And I'm like, okay, why aren't you saying that about the men?
Hmm.
Why aren't you
Mhm.
saying then if they don't want a child, they should, wear a condom?
Hmm.
Oh,
Mhm.
men don't like to wear condoms. Who the fuck cares? No pun intended.
Mhm.
Um, if they don't want to impregnate the woman, then wear the fucking condom.
Hmm.
Yeah.
Why is that such an issue? Yeah.
Yeah. And then you have cases where, like, couples who are careful and still take all preventative measures still
Yeah.
end up with an unwanted
Yeah.
pregnancy,
Yep.
Mhm.
yours truly included.
Exactly.
And
Yeah.
abortion is a great thing because
Yes.
if not for having access to abortion, I would probably be divorced from an abusive alcoholic, right?
Yeah.
And a single
Right.
parent. Like my life would be totally shit if not for having elective abortion.
Yeah.
I
So,
can't hear anymore.
oh,
Hmm. I'm sorry.
are you able to hear anybody, or is it just my mic that went
There you
out?
go. Yeah, now the picture went out, but at least I can hear you.
Okay, sounds good.
Get back. It's all back. Yeah.
Okay,
For
very
me
good.
anyway. Yeah.
Yeah. So yeah, and so like I mean, regardless of the statistics, whether 90% or 10% are medically necessary abortions,
Mhm. Yeah.
every abortion, even the 90% to 10% that are socially necessary because the person
Yes.
is not in a situation where they can support a kid. It is going to be better for
Mhm.
the living person who is carrying the baby to not be carrying that baby to term. It's going to be make that person's life better if they are no longer, afflicted with the child.
Yes.
Yep.
You've got
And
one
the other
person
thing,
who's having a good life rather than two people that are having a bad one.
yeah,
Exactly.
exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly. Great point. Great way to say it.
Yes.
Yeah. No.
And another
No.
thing too is allowing
Mhm.
women to make the decisions about their own body isn't just about abortion. It's also things like, what if they say, I never want to have children. I want my tubes tied. They should be allowed to do
Mhm.
that without a man's permission. They
There's
should
still
be
places where
allowed.
the women can't do it without, oh, how does your husband feel about this? Oh, Nate, you're too young. You might change your mind.
Mhm.
I hate that. I hate that.
Of course, they don't say that to men
Yep.
when
Oh,
they want a
no.
They didn't say that to
vasectomy.
me.
Oh, no.
They did not say that to
Nope,
me.
that's not even an issue. And I'm like,
Yep.
if you're going to ask the woman that, you got to ask the man that.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Hmm.
So all of that has to do with economic independence. And so
Yeah.
every bit of that does. I mean, and that's also good for us bringing up that this is, class 101 introduction to all of these issues.
Mhm.
I do wish we could have had friend from Serbia here though, because
Yeah. She should be
her
here.
education is in economics,
Hmm.
which is
Yeah, that
why
would be
she was
great.
such a huge help to me during the
Yeah.
naked communist stuff. Because there was one
Mhm.
point, and this is how I got to know her, is I'd covered something having to do with the book and everything, and then she messaged me and she's like, I apologize, but I wanted to correct you on this because you actually got this wrong. And I'm like, oh, cool. Okay. Can I just pass them off from you before I do anything? And that's what I started doing after that because I'm
Mhm.
like, hell, she knows. She lives in Serbia. She knows all of
Mhm.
this, and this is what she studied. This is what she
Yeah.
works in.
She brings so
She
much to
knows.
the
I
table.
don't. Oh my God. I was like, I have an expert, and
Mhm.
caught in Poland. Holy shit, I have experts on all of that to turn to say, hey, tell me how accurate this is. You live in a country that is still feeling the effects of these things. Tell me this,
Mhm.
And so it was just amazing. That's why I'm like, oh, damn, I do wish she could have, but I'm really happy she's got a job. I'm happy
Yeah.
she's safe. I'm happy all of that.
Hmm.
Yeah.
But I do wish she could have been here for
Yeah,
this.
me too.
It would have been fun. And
Yeah.
not
I
just
would
because
have.
I love talking to her. Oh my God. Yeah.
Yeah.
Any rate, but it's a good book. And so
Yeah.
that's one I think definitely everyone should read it and use it as a jumping off point. And she does have a reading list that she recommends in there. Let's see. Let me pull up my book on my Kindle or Kindle for my
See, I didn't
Mac.
have, I had audiobooks I got from the library. I didn't have any of that kind of stuff. But yeah.
Yeah.
So,
I bought it on Audible too. Okay. She has a suggestions for further reading in there. And there's what, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12 pages.
Yeah.
Oh, wow.
okay.
A lot. A lot.
It's
Okay.
a lot. And I know on Audible, If you buy the Audible one, there's a free PDF that comes with it that has not just the pictures from the
Mhm.
book, but I think it also has the suggested reading. So
It does.
if
That's what I'm
people,
reading right now. And yeah,
yes,
what one thing that's really notable about the suggested reading is just looking at the names of the various authors, in
hmm
addition to the titles of it. And it's clear that the amount of information she was drawing from people who lived in the Soviet Union is
Mhm.
extensive, right? She's not
yes,
coming at this from just a purely, Westerner's academic perspective. She actually does pull a lot from sources that are actually published from beyond the Iron Wall or Iron Curtain, I
yeah,
mean. So that's
yeah,
one thing I do appreciate about that further reading list.
yeah,
There were
like
parts
born
in it
in the
when I was like,
GDR.
I was thinking, now, is this her she's talking about, or she get this from someone else? Because
Yeah,
that's how much she was, how good she was about finding out real information. Because I thought this was firsthand at some points, but I
right.
read it in
And some of it
pieces. So,
was, but others of it were
yeah,
elsewhere.
Yeah.
Yeah,
right.
I'll say it was weird having a lady with an English accent read it when she was American.
yes.
Yes, that was
Yeah,
confusing to me.
Very true.
yeah,
Yes.
agreed.
Yeah,
Uh-huh.
she's like talking about kept being from California. It's like,
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah.
Hey, nice to have a mixture. She says she's Persian Puerto Rican, so or Puerto Rican Persian. I forget which order she puts it in, but yep. So might as well get a whole thing. Yeah, there's one like Bolshevik feminist, the life of Alexandra Kollontai. I probably said that all wrong. But that's somebody she quotes in the book, and so you get it from this book written by Barbara Evans Clemens. That's one of the suggested readings. So yeah, there's a lot of that, which I love it when books do that, especially a book like this that is just an introduction into an incredibly deep topic and
Mhm.
one that, you could spend 6 semesters studying. It's that deep.
Mhm.
And
Yeah.
so yeah, and that's one of the values of a book like this.
Yeah.
Mhm. Except they don't
Cool.
have women's studies in most colleges anymore. But yeah,
Nope,
you're
they
right.
Yeah.
don't.
Truth.
It's a DEI thing. Yeah.
It is.
God. She kept
Yep.
talking about things and I go, well, DEI, and that's the
Yep.
end of
that's
that.
gone.
Hmm.
Yep.
I know.
Yeah.
And I am also
Uh,
like, oh, sometimes I'm thinking about some books, like these banned books, which I actually want to check and see if this is banned. But because I mean there's 10,000 banned books across the country at this
Oh
point.
yeah. Yeah.
Um, but it's like some of these I'm like, I feel like I should get a print copy of it because yes,
Mm.
I have them on my Kindle. In fact, one of my Kindle collections one of the collections on my Kindle is banned books. But it's like they can still take it from you from any of these ebooks
Yes.
like that.
Hmm.
So those are ones I'm like, okay, download it onto your computer.
Hmm.
Maybe you'll still have
Mhm.
access to it just in case, if they try to take my
There,
Huckleberry fan away from me or something like that.
there are
Um,
there are audiobooks that on from Audible. I hate this, that are Audible only. And so
yes,
if you turn it off, you lose that book.
Hmm.
yeah,
And they've got me paying for something I really can't afford because I don't want them to take all my books away that I
Hmm.
yeah,
purchased. I purchased those damn things. I paid more for those, some of them, than if I'd bought paper versions. Yeah,
yeah,
that Audible pisses me off. Most of them I get from the
yeah,
library for free.
Hmm.
Mm,
yeah. And there's other audiobook apps like Chirp and Book Funnel
uh-huh.
and some of them. I like
Yeah,
Book Funnel because that's usually me buying it direct from the author rather than going through any
yeah,
of these forms, and that's how they send it to me. So I feel like the author's getting all the money from it, but then I'm downloading it to my computer before I put it on to something else. So then I know I've got
mhm,
it.
yeah,
And it's also they are not getting into the Audible Plus, um, which Audible Plus is kind of irritating because you can download for free these books that are on there of all these authors that they are allowing onto it, but the way those authors get paid is they
that's
take
shifty.
from other authors that you're paying for their books. So they are getting less then so that the authors on Audible Plus that you listen to will get paid. And I'm like, that's just shit. That's fucks up everything. And that's so wrong. But they get penalized if they use any other app to sell their audiobooks. So they can't be on the Plus thing, and now they're getting paid less. But it's like, I'd rather be on the Plus thing or on YouTube or something. And so, I mean, there's an author I like where she has some of my favorite books of hers are only on YouTube, and it annoys the hell out of me to listen to because you get an ad every 5 minutes, but I listen to it because one, it's the only place I can find it, and two, she at least is getting paid from the ads.
I go ahead, premium, it's $11 a month. No, I'm sorry, it's $13 now because I watch so much YouTube. I get enough ads that are built into the people having to sell stuff from sponsors. So I know I'm paying for things that I probably shouldn't, but I don't have any other premium services, so it's okay.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah. Anyway,
I'm just saying that makes it easier to listen to things when you don't have to keep. Yeah.
Well, that's, and it's like I have to take my phone with me all over the house because I do stuff around the house when I'm listening to books, and I can't take it with me in the car when I'm driving if I'm listening to it on YouTube because I need to be able to skip the ad. And I'm like, the worst for me is when I'm watching, a 15-minute video and I get an hour-long ad, and I'm like, this is fucking shit. Don't give me an ad that longer than the video I'm watching,
And the content creator doesn't get any of that extra. They don't get any extra for that hour-long ad, and they certainly didn't get any say in it.
Nope, they don't. They don't get any.
This whole lamentations we're having right now is all just more of why capitalism fucking sucks. It ruins everything.
Yeah, exactly.
Everybody
But I
hates
feel like
ads.
that's why I'm feeling okay to talk about it because it's all on topic, really.
It's all part
it's
of the
all
topic.
relative. It's all relevant. It's all interconnected in this fucking bastard version of an economy that we live under. And and it's okay to like rant and rave about this because there ain't shit we can do about it except rant and rave. All right.
Exactly.
Nice way to bring back to the topic.
We were on the topic.
Yeah. It was all on topic.
If the author is watching us, she'll be like, "See, this is what I was hoping for. This has started a discussion." No, it's a good book. Everybody read it. Why Women Have Better Sex Under Socialism, and by Kristen Ghodsee, Ghodsee.
Well, and
I
you
did find
said
out how to say
something-
her name right. Yeah.
You did say something, I think, in the green room before we went live that I thought was very poignant take on it, is that the subtitle and other arguments for economic independence is actually the subject matter of the book. And the title of it is what is just to get it off of the bookshelves. That's the hook, right?
Is the clickbait, almost the clickbait. Not quite. I mean, I shouldn't insult her by calling it clickbait because it really isn't. She does actually cover that for 2 chapters and hits on it. But the real thing is why economic independence.
Yes, exactly.
Matters,
And it does matter. It matters a hell of a lot. It's very necessary.
Now, you also said in the green room that you had some reviews of it.
I did. I actually went over some of them.
You went over some of them.
Yeah.
Okay. Any others of that
they
you wanted to talk about?
There was one where she was not happy, and the review was titled, "No, sex wasn't better for women under socialism."
All right.
And
good by man.
This was published back in 2018. She says one of the most mercilessly mocked New York Times op-eds of recent memory was "Why Women Had Better Sex Under Socialism," 2017 piece by Kristen R. Ghodsee. Undeterred by a flood of snarky Twitter commentary before or after their husbands were sent to the Gulag, Ghodsee has now expanded her article into a short book with an almost identical title. It is now in the present tense. Oops, sorry. This just scrolled down and it wasn't supposed to. She gets points for persistence, but the thesis doesn't really fare better in book form. She says, sorry, I have a very small window of my the website so I can see everybody I'm talking to. And so it's like, scroll correctly. Sorry, everyone. Yeah, my computer's being stupid and I got the spinny wheel. Give me a second.
I love how right off the rip, this person is already conflating communism and socialism.
Oh,
like,
she does.
right,
Yes.
She
right off the
does.
bat. It's like,
Yes.
wait, okay, did you read the book? No, okay, all
I
right.
know.
No, didn't read the
So
book.
No.
that's always a thing I'm looking
Mhm.
for in a review, whether it's a product or a book. Like, if can I read this review and come to the conclusion that you actually consumed the product or actually read the book? And if you
Mm-hmm.
didn't, then I can't take you
Mhm.
seriously. I'm sorry.
Yes.
Yeah.
Like, she spends an extensive amount of the opening of the book, the introduction and the first chapter, disentangling communism and socialism. So I don't know
Mhm.
what to tell you. If you didn't read the first chapter of the book, you clearly didn't read the rest of it. So,
Mhm.
okay. All
Yeah.
Yes.
right.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And she
What
says
you
things
think is
like,
not valuable.
Yeah.
yeah. She says, let's see. And this author apparently says, as someone who lived in the Soviet Union until immigrating as a teen in 1980, I can say that Ghodsee must have a truly enormous pair of rose-colored glasses. Which I was like, okay. And she said in
Mhm.
there 5 times, I think it was, she's not advocating a return to that.
Yep.
Okay. All right.
Mhm.
Um, she says Ghodsee does acknowledge that the Soviet revolutionaries' initial embrace of sexual freedom and liberation from traditional family roles, notably championed by Alexandra Kollontai, I hope I said that right, the most prominent female
Mhm.
Bolshevik, soon gave way to a far more conservative outlook. Childbearing became a national imperative, non-procreative sex, a bourgeois frivolity. The post-Stalin thaw ushered in a less repressive environment, but as the sexual revolution swept the West, Soviet culture remained remarkably puritanical well into the 1980s. One infamous moment that came to symbolize this prudery was when a woman in the Leningrad studio audience of a 1986 US Soviet satellite TV talk show seemed to declare, in the Soviet Union, there is no sex. She actually said no sex on television, but the last 2 words were drowned out by laughter.
Huh.
Besides
Interesting.
cultural attitudes, there were
Mhm.
socialist practicalities, particularly lack of privacy, to which Ghodsee only briefly alludes. Single young adults shared cramped apartments with parents, siblings, and often other relatives. So did most young married. Many couples lacked even a private bedroom, which understandably put a damper on things. There were horror tales of conjugal moments ruined by a parent or in-laws shouting, "Cut it out, I'm trying to sleep," from behind a curtain. Add the lack of contraceptives and the barbarity of Soviet abortion, anesthesia
Mhm.
required a bribe, and it's a wonder any sex happened at all. Now, with that said, sex still happened in concentration camps. Sex still happened in the Native American tribes living in a teepee where the entire family lived in the teepee.
Yeah.
Um, Sex still happened all these places. It still happened. It's just everyone knew about it. Japanese families, I think they live in all one room, all of that. Sex happens. The
Mhm.
question, what it really comes down to is how prudish is your society? You know, American Western
Mhm.
society, you don't do it in front of the kids. These other
Mhm.
ones, they
Yeah.
did. Yeah.
Yeah. And look, and that's, I think, a good takeaway from the book. And I think that the person is actually making fair criticisms, that there are certain
Yes.
things that she does seem to view with rose-colored glasses and does
I
paint with
agree.
really broad brush strokes. And that
Mhm.
is, yeah, and when you're trying to characterize the economic status of women in 30 different countries living under a somewhat loosely confederated economic status, and then also comparing it to like modern interpretations of very progressive socialist democracies. You're going to lose a lot when you're trying to
Hmm.
paint with such a broad, like create such a broad picture. There's so much nuance that's
Mhm.
going to be lost.
Yeah, they
And
did
yeah,
Oh, yeah.
communism different.
yeah, Yeah,
Yes.
and even different communist countries, like the lived experience was very, very different in many of those different Eastern Bloc nations. So like,
Yeah.
yeah, so I get that criticism. I think that's a fair criticism. And I mean, it
Mhm.
does from the rest of the review. It sounds like this person legitimately read and just said, well, this wasn't my lived experience. Well,
Right.
maybe she wasn't exactly talking about your specific nation. I mean, she might have been
Yeah.
talking more about some of the other more progressively governed communist nations. Yeah, it's tough to tell because there's so much variability and nuance within the subject.
Right. Yeah, this author ends with the main lesson of this volume seems to be that many left wing critics of capitalism can't bring themselves to fully repudiate the legacy of 20th century Marxism/Leninism. Ghodsee concludes by claiming there was a baby in all that bathwater. Not in this book, there isn't. And I was like,
Huh.
okay, you missed the point. You missed the
Yeah.
point.
Mhm.
Yep. Because she is very clear that she's not talking about 20th century communism. She's saying take these best parts of socialism, and that is a thing Ghodsee is very,
Yeah.
very clear about. And this author of this review was
Mhm.
not. In fact, if you want to find reviews, just put what I did is I Googled critiques of why women have better sex under communism. And so this was one on reason.com, but there were several others. There was one on it's one that a website she actually mentions in hers. Um, Give me a second. Jacobin.com. That was actually really interesting. It's called Bad Romance. And that one was one of the most fascinating one I read. Um, that had as a, kind of a TLDR, but capitalism is bad at sex because it's bad at relationships. Socialism can do it better.
Yeah.
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 And it's like, hey, there we go.
Hmm.
And that one's
Mhm.
actually a really good article about it. And, I didn't want to go and read everything from him on here, but I would suggest just Google those and look those up if you find them and take a look because they are interesting, I thought. So, yeah,
Yeah. Very cool.
it was an interesting book. Thanks for
Good
telling
book.
us to read it, friend from Serbia.
Yes, it was a
I love
Greetings,
you.
friend from Serbia.
great book.
Yep.
Yeah, and spawned a lot of fun discussion too. Like I
Yes,
thoroughly
which is
enjoyed
the
this
ideal.
discussion. That was that, and like I always, especially if we're going to read a nonfiction book for these book clubs, I really want it to be a thought provoking and one that causes me to be like, "Hey, hang on, wait a second, what did that author just say? Like, hey,
Mm.
let's examine this. And what is a reviewer? What is somebody who is
Mhm.
doesn't have the same rose-colored glasses say about this? And like, that's
Mhm.
a lot more fun for me than just
Mhm.
reading a book that is, just preaching to the choir. And that's what this book did, right? There was a fair amount of fawning and preaching to the choir. And, like liberals, I think, are going to generally nod their head along a lot more to this book than a conservative will. And, and
Yeah.
that's fine. But there was also a fair amount of material in there that was quite thought provoking and a lot of history that I've never studied myself. And it was only just barely briefly introduced through this book. And that was a lot of fun too.
Yeah,
Mhm.
Thank you,
definitely.
friend from Serbia. Great, great
Yeah.
recommendation.
Yeah.
I don't talk to people very much, and I was excited to talk about this. And
Yeah.
that says a lot. So yeah, it was good.
I'm glad you were able to make it this time.
Yeah.
Me
We've
too.
missed you the
So I
last
am.
few.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah,
it's
we have.
hard
We
for me.
missed
Like
you.
I said, sometimes I don't talk to people very much, and so yeah, I have to really want to be. I have to be excited. You've seen my comments that I leave. They're that's I can write for an hour, but
You do
it's hard for
great.
me to get to do that.
Oh, I love it. I love it when we get those who comment long comments. You
Hmm.
do, Tyler does,
That's how you
Autisticness is
get
next to
started.
Godliness does. It's the
Hmm.
best. I know I started it. I
Yeah.
started it. Yes.
A
That was
trendsetter.
me. All right.
Awesome.
Yep. I with my long ass comments because I'm a long ass speaker and everything else, except I love public speaking. So
Oh no! Oh no! Mm-mm.
Not everybody.
No,
No,
not everyone.
No.
that's okay. You don't have to. I'll take over all of it. I'll just do it all. I don't care. No, it'll be fun. Yeah, we'll have to see on the next one. It'll have to be another fiction one, I think, so we alternate. But oh man, the ones I put on the list to recommend this time, it was like I want to do all 4 of these for
I want to do all 4 too. Oh, it's so
I know.
interesting.
Friend from Serbia, she's like, Shan, I want to do all of them, but you pick. I mean, of course I voted that one, but I want to do them all. They're all
Me
good
too,
books.
that's what I thought.
We'll just have to call back on them the next time we're making our nonfiction lists.
That's right.
And people can
Maybe
vote
we'll
again.
just put those 3 up and let people vote on
go.
Or
those.
add a 4th.
Yeah, we can do that.
It might be the Princess Aline one or Aline, however it was. She had that came in second on it.
Yeah.
I'm not
Excellent.
surprised
I
the
don't know,
one
we'll
with
see.
sex in the title won, though. Really
Oh,
not.
It's a titillating
It's the
title.
clickbait.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah. It was
So-
fun. It was good. It was a good read. I'm glad we did
Yeah.
it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Any final words, final thoughts on the book, or anything that we
Nope.
discussed over the whole discussion?
I'm done.
Nope.
Me too.
I wish we had more influence. That's mainly it.
Yeah.
Put all my eggs in the millennial basket is what I kind of feel like I'm doing.
Yeah.
Our saviors.
Yes.
Yep.
All
Awesome.
right. Thanks,
Cool.
everybody.
Yeah, this was a lot of fun. Thanks for tuning in, subscribers, and anyone who is just on the YouTube channel who isn't a subscriber. Thanks for tuning in, but especially to our Patreon supporters at patreon.com/glassboxpod. You keep the lights on at the studios that you see now in full relief and full light. You actually get to see the actual dragon layer instead of a virtual background, which is fantastic. The dragon puzzle,
Yes.
and then the dragon classification guide from that dragon tooth mystery box
That
and
you
everything.
gave me.
It looks so appropriate, so good, just hanging up
It
there.
does.
I love it.
This is the only puzzle I ever glued together.
And it's awesome. It's so perfect.
I love it.
Looks
It's
like
the
it.
first shaped puzzle I was ever given, too.
Is it a
Yeah,
wood
put
puzzle?
it together so much. What's that?
Is it a wood puzzle?
Nope. It's a
It's not
regular, just cardboard
oh,
one.
okay.
But it's shaped, and I put it together enough times the edges were starting to rub together so
Yeah.
they didn't stay stuck together easily. And I was like,
Yeah.
yeah. So the time before this last time, I was like, next time I put it together, I'm going to have to glue it. And so I did. I'm
You can
super happy
display it.
about it.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's awesome.
I love having it on my wall. It's just the best. I have a
Yep.
few others, cardboard ones that are shaped puzzles. One that's a dragon, and a bunch of others that are other stuff. Yeah. But at any rate, that's my first one. It's the best.
It's a good one.
It's not even
it's
available
fantastic.
anymore. You can't get any more of them.
And now it remains an art piece forever hanging behind your
Yeah.
head, just
I got
lording
it like
over
20
you.
years ago.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it's wow, that's really cool.
That's the best.
But yeah, well, thanks for tuning in, everybody. We're going to go ahead and end the stream there. And just thanks for your support, everybody, and for jumping in on the discussion. I think this was a lot of fun.
Yes. Good night,
Yes.
everybody.
All right,
Good night.
take care.